Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Diego. Ready for a live stream? Ready for a K1 visa, green card information? Come on along. I've been doing this for what? Processing green cards for 13 years. I don't know, I've been doing the live stream for a couple of years. I started it with my beautiful wife, Karina from Venezuela in Bogota, Colombia. She used to live in Caracas, Venezuela. And then in 2018, July of 2018, she moved to Bogota. And she lived in Colombia for 6 years, and we dated each other for 3 years. And I lived in Colombia with her for 3 years, back basically flying back and forth from Florida to Colombia. Anyway, time for another live stream. It's almost 6 p.m. It's June 6th, 2026, and also a remembrance for the D-Day landings of 1944 for our military. And Priyanka is first up to bat. Hello, Diego. What's going on, Priyanka? And congratulations on your husband's new job assignment. Where is it? So good job on that. So you're going to be moving around quite a bit. You went to Alabama to Michigan. Now you're moving to a new place to start a new job. So that's good. Now, there's lots of things happening in immigration. There was a federal judge in Providence, Rhode Island, who threw out the unconstitutional, illegal, and unlawful block on 39 countries, including Venezuela. So my wife, Karina from Venezuela, her green card is going to continue processing for her 10-year green card, which is good news. It was, President Trump ordered USCIS to illegally stop those. Or he put an indefinite pause on those adjudications. Well, that violates the Immigration and Nationality Act. And those people from those 39 countries had nothing to do with what that gentleman from Afghanistan did. Horrible thing that he did to the National Guards lady. So, it is what it is. A federal judge stepped in and said to USCIS, you will continue resuming adjudicating green cards for those people globally, not just the ones that President Trump handpicked as his favorites, right? So, good news. So if you're from one of those 39 countries that were put on an indefinite pause in the United States, I'm talking about folks who applied for 2-year green cards and 10-year green cards. Those folks are now going to get their Fourth Amendment rights restored, their constitutional rights for their foreign nationals restored for adjudication and due process. What else can I say? President Trump is not very friendly towards legal immigration at all. Now, if you are an illegal immigrant, if you snuck across our border illegally, President Trump has done a fantastic job finding you, detaining you, and deporting you. But when he started going after legal permanent residents who've done everything by the book in accordance with the Immigration and Nationality Act, including the folks from those 39 countries, then he's got to face the consequences. And I think that those consequences are going to be shown in the November election. We'll see what happens in the midterm elections. So to all those Republicans, I think it's a great idea to go to attack American citizens' families and deny their wives and husbands green cards. If you think that's a good idea, then you need to notify your constituents that so they can make a sound decision who they're going to vote for. Priyanka, yes, Diego, thank you. He's moving to Mississippi by the end of June and giving notice to the apartment on Monday. And I will be staying in Michigan until the mid of September to wait for my management. Okay. So he's going to be moving there at the end of June. So you're going to be July, August. So you're going to have 2 months separation. So, that's okay. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. You just got to notify immigration of the new address. Diane Smith. Hi, Diego. What's going on, Diane? How are you? Now, remember, guys, don't forget, tell people where, which state you're calling in from, or tell everybody where you're from. You don't have to say what city, but just say what state, and explain to us what you're doing. Are you doing a K1 visa application? Are you processing a 2-year green card or a 10-year green card? Now, today, Karina got her letter right here. This is her extension letter. So she got a 48-month extension on her 2-year green card. Her 2-year green card expires June 26th, I think it is, 2026. So in 20 days, just under three weeks, her 2-year green card expires. But today we got a letter in the mail from immigration, which has extended her 2-year green card to 48 months. So now her green card expires June 26th, something like that, 2030. Priyanka, to accept my request to go remote job, I will resign and move to be with my husband. Okay. Well, hopefully, I mean, you got a good paying job in Michigan, right? I'll give you a 2% milk salute for you guys. I just ate Chinese food with Karina. We went to the Chinese buffet. It was good. I ate pretty much a little bit too much, but that's, very, very rarely do I stuff myself, but today was one of those days. By mid-September, okay, Priyanka, but make sure you notify. Yeah, yes, Diego, I have a good job. Yeah, you make good money, So I don't know why. You got to maybe talk over with your husband. But if he wants to go work in Mississippi now? Is that where you? Yeah, Mississippi, and you're making good money in Michigan. But immigration is not going to penalize you for him moving. That's but you got to notify immigration. He's got to let him know where he is. So that way, when you get mail, when you get correspondence from USCIS, it goes to the right house. Okay, it's mandatory. But once you become a U.S. citizen, then you don't have to worry about it. The only time you need to notify immigration if you move is if you are a green card holder. Diane Smith, do both spouses have to go to the adjustment of status interview for a 10-year green card? Yes, they do. This is a joint application. When Karina filed for her 10-year green card, and today she got a letter from immigration saying her 2-year green card's been extended for 48 months. If we have to go to an interview, let's suppose we have to go to a green card interview, say in about a year, it's going to take about a year, then we both have to go because we are both joint applicants. I signed the paperwork, Karina signed the paperwork. It's when you file for a 10-year green card, unless your husband or wife has passed away or you guys have got divorced, you both have to go to the interview. Okay? It's a joint application. It's a husband and wife application. Priyanka, yes, we will notify USCIS the first day he moves to Mississippi. Okay. Well, Mississippi's nice. It gets pretty hot in the summertime. It's very historic. They got a lot of history there. And it's going to be a little different of a climate from Michigan. Michigan's cold and dry kind of heat. And let me see here. Diane Smith, we separated. What do you mean you separated? So you married? So are you the beneficiary or are you the sponsor? Are you the American citizen sponsor or are you the beneficiary from the foreign country? That will help me answer your question. If you're the sponsor, so you're the American citizen sponsor, and have you filed? If you separated, then you're going to have to file for divorce, right? If you're separated and you file for a divorce, then no, you don't have to go to the visa interview for the 10-year green card. It will be mandatory though for your beneficiary, who you are now separated from. He is going to have to go to the. It's going to be mandatory because you guys are either separated or divorced. So you don't have to go, no. But he's going to have to go, and if you can't explain why you guys are separated, if you cannot give an adequate explanation as to why you guys are separated or getting divorced, then it's not good that he probably won't get his 10-year green card. Just my opinion from past experience in looking at data and statistics. So he's not You know, you don't have to go, Diane. You don't have to go to the green card interview for his 10-year green card, but he's going to have to go, mandatory, no excuse. Priyanka, thank you, Diego, for the kind words. Today, my husband and I are going to the beach. You are okay. Have a nice weekend to you and Karina. That's good. I'm looking at the weather. I was going to take Karina. We're going to go to the beach tomorrow. The beaches here in Florida are great. I mean, you know, back when was it? About a week and a half ago, we were in Santa Monica, California. We were walking on the beach in Santa Monica, California, and the beach there was like different. You know, Florida beaches are the best in the world, in my opinion. I mean, I've been around the world. When I was in the Navy, I've been to lots of beaches. I went to Paleokotstrica Beach in Corfu, Greece. That was beautiful. I was at Golden Bay in Malta, a beach in Malta. I've been to beaches all around the world. I've been to Bendita Beach in Colombia. That was beautiful. In fact, I like that beach, but the Florida beaches, I think, are the best. So depending on the weather, I will be taking Karina to the beach tomorrow. But it's been rainy this week, it's pretty much here in the Panhandle of Florida, so it's been kind of hard to get a beach day because of the weather. Not because it's cold, but because it's raining, which is good for the grass. So I laid a whole bunch of sod in the backyard back in April, so that means I don't have to pay to water the yard. I let the rain do it. So those 39 countries that were put on an indefinite pause illegally, unlawfully, and unconstitutionally by the Trump administration, a federal judge in Rhode Island has overturned that BS. This is the best word I can think of. So if you're from one of those 39 countries that were put on an indefinite pause, which included Venezuela and Cuba and Haiti, you know, those countries, a federal judge has told the Trump administration, you cannot do that. The Immigration and Nationality Act was written by Congress and signed by Congress and forwarded to the Senate and put into law by the president. So only the Congress can change immigration law, not one person who just happens to disagree with people from these various countries that he doesn't seem to like. I'm about sick and tired up to here, okay, of the administration going after green card holders, legal green card holders, people following due process. You know, my wife's got a degree in tax accounting, highly intelligent. She's flying an airplane. She's been flying airplanes. You know, she's highly intelligent, has a good job, no threat to anybody. And yet President Trump seemed to think that, you know, my wife's green card should be put on an indefinite pause. No, it ain't going to happen. Well, it's not happening now. A federal judge just threw that crap out the window. But if they continued down that path, I've got a federal lawsuit ready to file against the director of USCIS. If he wants to keep jacking around with me, I'll take him to court, and I'll win. Here's the immigration law. Here's what the Congress says you're supposed to do. Here's what the Constitution says American citizens and green card holders have the due rights to due process. And then one person sitting in the White House decides, well, I'm just going to stop green card adjudications for people from Nigeria, Venezuela, Haiti. That's not how it works. And he just found out that yesterday. So good job. A salute to that federal judge in Providence, Rhode Island. I think it was Providence. It was in Rhode Island. So if you're from one of those 39 countries that was illegally put on a pause by the Trump administration, you can relax now, because now your green card. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to be guaranteed an approval. It just means that your green card will be adjudicated. Yes or no. Approved or denied. Yes or no. That's what was put in place by the Congress. President Trump can't say, okay, these countries over here, we're not going to adjudicate those green cards. We're going to put these people in a indefinite pause. That's mental abuse. That is absolute mental abuse. And there's a good cause there for civil lawsuit too, not just to adjudicate the green card, but also for mental abuse, in my opinion. So anyway, that's just my opinion. But right now, you know, But what's good about this country, and probably, is that we have elections every 2 years. Members of Congress either get elected or fired every 2 years, and our president gets fired or reelected. He only has 2 terms. He can only run 2 terms. So Trump's on his second term. Okay, so he can't run again in accordance with the Constitution. So he's done. So in 2029, he will not be president. But my wife's 2-year green card now expires June of 2030. A year and a half long after Trump has been retired from the White House, long after a new Congress has been put in place that is going to be following the due process. Remember, it was us military folks. I'm retired Navy. It was us military folks that created the K-1 visa in the first place. Well, it was Vietnam veterans that did it, not me personally. But in the 70s, Vietnam veterans got sick and tired of being jacked around by Congress on their Vietnamese fiancés and wives. You know, American GI would marry a Vietnamese lady, wants to bring her to America and settle down, and he couldn't get her visa. So the Vietnam veterans put pressure on Congress. That created the K-1 visa. And then all of a sudden, President Trump or whoever says, "No, we're not gonna let you get your green card because you're from Venezuela." What the hell did my wife do to anybody? Nothing. She didn't do anything wrong. She followed congressional law. I followed congressional law. I brought her to America. She didn't ask to come here. I asked her to come here. I asked her to come live here. She was quite happy in Colombia, making good money, living in an apartment. But we dated for 3 years, and then it was me that brought her here. And then all of a sudden, Trump says, "No, we're not going to adjudicate your green card." Really? Okay, well, we'll see what a federal judge says about that. And yesterday, he found out you can't do that. Anyway, it's good news for everybody. Now, there are 75 countries in the world right now that are still being blocked for consular processing. Now, these are American citizens who are married to foreign nationals. Like, let's suppose you're married to a Colombian, okay, and you filed a spousal visa, right? You filed a spousal visa, I-130. It made it through you made it through all the police checks. The Colombian police checks were done. You paid the consular fee. You did the visa the green card interview, visa interview. You got all the police certificates. You did everything you're supposed to do. And then Marco Rubio turns around and says, "No, we're not going to adjudicate your green card." So he's going to separate an American citizen from his wife or her husband because they were born in a specific country that they don't like, because they said they're a public charge from those countries, which is total BS. The consular officers adjudicate incomes for American citizens on spousal visas. If your income isn't there, you got to get a joint sponsor. And the embassy will tell you, you need to get a joint sponsor. You don't just block arbitrarily a person from a specific country because you think they're going to be a public charge. My friend makes plenty of money, and his wife is from Colombia. But luckily for him also, she also has Venezuelan citizenship. So she has dual citizenship with Venezuela and Colombia. And Venezuela is not on that list of blocked countries. So hopefully she can still process her green card for the spousal visa. But I'm so sick and tired of this government and the way it's treating people who are trying to do things legally and come to this country legally, not just spousal visas or K-1 visas. I'm talking about work visas, H-1B1 visas, or people applying for asylum. Now, if you are a bogus asylum seeker, then you're not going to get your freaking green card. If you're just making up stories, yeah, you're scared for this, whatever. But if you are a legitimate asylum seeker, you should be given due process. It's a humanitarian thing, number one. And number two, it's what the Immigration and Nationality Act says. You just can't block it. You have to investigate it. I've had it right here. I've had it. Now, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. Okay. But I keep seeing everybody running and cheering for the Republicans, And what did they do when they're in office? Not much. And then you got people cheering for the Democrats, and what do they do when they're in office besides raise taxes and jack up the price of gasoline? Not much. So both parties are pretty much useless in my opinion. So I'm at my juncture, I'm not even going to vote anymore, because whoever I vote for is going to screw up something somewhere, either for my wife as an immigrant or whatever. Let's see here. Diane, what evidence is required for him to get a 10-year green card without me? The evidence that's going to be required is that you brought him to the United States in good faith. You brought him here in good faith. You were happily married, and you were in a good solid relationship, and then it didn't work out. So he's going to have to prove that he didn't come over here just for a green card. The evidence is going to be on him to show, why did you guys separate? Why are you getting a divorce? What's the reason? Immigration is going to ask him that question. Okay, so you came to the United States, you got your 2-year green card, you're now going for your 10-year green card, but you're filing alone. You filed your I-751 by yourself. Why is that? Well, what's the reason? So whatever the reason is that you guys separated is the reason he's going to have to give to the immigration officer when he goes to the interview, which is going to be mandatory for him because you are separated. I'm assuming you're going to get divorced, right? I'm going to assume that, because you don't want to stay married to someone. Okay, so you're going to get a divorce. Now, just because you get a divorce does not mean that he can't get his green card. He could still get his 10-year green card, but it's a lot harder, because now he's going to have to explain why you guys got a divorce. He's going to have to explain it. You don't have to go to a 10-year green card interview if you guys are getting divorced. It's all going to be on him. So probably his best bet is to hire an immigration attorney. And although, you don't need an immigration attorney to file a K-1 or a 2-year or a 10-year green card if you're still happily married. But if you guys are getting a divorce, then he's going to have somebody speak for him at the interview, so that he doesn't, if you guys are getting divorced because it's a mutual agreement, it just didn't work out. It just, that happens sometimes. It doesn't, just because you're married to a foreign national, you could have been married to an American and it didn't work out, and you get separated and divorced. The nationality is irrelevant. It's the relationship that's important. So if the relationship is irreparably broken, he is going to have to explain to an immigration interviewer why that is. If his explanation as to why you guys got divorced is not sufficient, he will be put into removal proceedings and deported. If the immigration officer accepts his explanation as to why you guys separated and got divorced, he'll get his green card. But his income has to be sufficient to be able to live in this country. It's getting very expensive to live in America, right? Inflation is crazy. Cost of housing is crazy. Price of food is crazy. Inflation is very high right now. So if he's going to file for his 10-year green card by himself with a good explanation as to why you guys are getting divorced, then the onus is upon him in order to get his green card. Okay? He's going to have a mandatory face-to-face with an immigration officer. Diane Smith, everything is high. Yeah, it's crazy. Cost of living is crazy. Just the price of gas, price of food, paying for your electric bill. Have you seen the price of an SUV or a truck, a pickup truck? Like an F-350. You see, I see that. I worked for Mercedes-Benz and BMW for 17, 18 years. And a high-end SUV sold by Mercedes-Benz was running around $60,000 back in the day. Now that's the basic price for a basic pickup truck, F-350 or F-250. I mean, who in their right mind is going to spend 60 grand on a truck? I mean, I'm certainly glad I'm not in the auto industry right now. You know, I couldn't justify selling somebody a 8-year car payment on an $80,000 pickup truck. I couldn't in my right mind. I couldn't sell them the car. I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'll go do something else. 80 grand, 60 grand just for a basic pickup SUV. Ridiculous. It's insane. You know, price of houses, 400,000, 500,000 for a basic 2,000 square foot house. I mean, what, seriously? And I'm not talking about California. California obviously is a very high cost of living area because California is ran by incompetent communists. Just my opinion. But the price of houses, I mean, just a basic 2-bedroom, you know, trailer in California is what? $500,000? Insane, right? I don't know how people make it. I don't know how people can survive financially, which is going to make it harder and harder for American citizens to qualify for the income requirements to bring somebody to this country from a foreign country. You know, remember, if you are the sponsor, you have to sign the affidavit of support, which is you are promising the U.S. government that you're going to support your new wife or husband and his or her family, children, whatever. You got to make enough money. And, you know, how much does it cost to feed a family of 4? What's the food bill for a family of 4 or a family of 3? $800, $900 a month just for the food, not including utilities and insurance. You got to have medical insurance. You got to have dental insurance, possibly. I don't know. Yeah. So Diane Smith says everything is high. So what you have to think about in your situation, Diane, is number 1, why are you guys separating? Number 2, why are you guys getting a divorce? Number 3, did your beneficiary use you for a green card? Or number 4, did he not use you for a green card? He just came over here with a you know, intention of living happily ever after, and it didn't work out. And that happens not just with foreign nationals, but with Americans too. You could be married to an American citizen and it not work out. Diane Smith, yes, he used me for a green card. Okay. So then what you need to do is you need to inform immigration of this. Okay. If you have evidence for this, you need to notify immigration that it's immigration fraud. That's what that is. You can go online to the ICE website and file a report against him, and then then you're good. But get a divorce. You don't want to be legally tied to him. You need to separate your name from his name. You need to be legally separated, legally divorced. You need to get a judge to sign off on a divorce for you guys, and then it's all on him. Okay? But you can file a report with ICE. There's a website you can go to where you can file for immigration fraud against him. But make sure you get a divorce from this guy, because you don't want to be legally tied to him. You know, number 1, you just got to get untied from him legally, just to protect you financially, and for, you know, in order for you to remarry somebody else in the future. You're going to have to be legally free and able to marry somebody else, right? So you got to divorce him. Go file a divorce. It's $400, I think. Go to the courthouse and file for a divorce. File for divorce. You can get it done maybe in 6 months. File for divorce. You do it. You take charge. You run it. You run the ball. Okay. Do you know where he lives? Are you guys still living together under the same roof? I don't know. But in my opinion, if he used you for a green card, you need to file divorce against him. And in the United States, you can get a divorce from somebody, whether the other person agrees to it or not. You still can get a divorce. So if he starts screaming, well, I'm not going to divorce you. I'm going to not file. I'm not going to sign any papers. Don't worry about it. A judge is going to give you a divorce. If you file for it, if you file for divorce, he will give you a divorce. The judge will. Yes, we live together until our lease is up in September. Okay. Well, if he used you for a green card, why is he still living with you? Why are you still together? You said you were separated. What you need to do is, if he used you for a green card, you need to go and file for divorce on Monday, pay the fee, start the ball rolling, put your name on the top of the divorce decree as the petitioner for the divorce, and he's going to be the defendant. That puts you in charge of the process, and get the divorce done, and then tell him to go find somewhere else to live. Kick him out of the house. But you want to get divorced from him, and you want to file a report with immigration that he used you for a green card. You got to file it. You got to file a report. You got to have evidence that's going to back you up for this, to get through this process. Okay. And you want him to be out of the country. You don't want him to get issued a green card. A 10-year green card is a permanent residency card. Then it's next to impossible that anything can be done to remove him from the country. And then you're still financially responsible for him, even though you're going to be divorced. You understand, when you signed Form 484, the affidavit of support, married or divorced, you're still financially responsible for this guy for at least 10 years, all the while he's in the United States. So if he decides he doesn't want to get a job and just bum around, he can sue you, and you are going to be forced to pay his rent, his food, his medical, and he can just sit around in an apartment all day watching frickin' TV. And you're going to be on the hook for the financial payments to him, all the while he's in the United States. Whether you are married or divorced, doesn't matter. So what's the best thing for you is file for divorce Monday, and do not assist him with his 10-year green card application 751. Do not help him at all. And file an immigration report, the ICE website, and report him for immigration fraud. So then when he files for his 10-year green card by himself, which he can do if he wants to, then he goes in front of the immigration officer, and there, right on the computer of the immigration officer, is a report that you filed that he's tried to defraud you for a green card. They will detain him on the spot, put him in handcuffs, put him in a detention center, and then put him on a plane and fly him to whatever country it is he came from. But you have to take charge of this. I'm sorry this happened to you, but you're going to have to take charge of this. Okay? You need to be the one in charge of this process. Don't wait for him to divorce you. You need to divorce him. You need to be the petitioner. He needs to be the defendant, not the other way around. Your name needs to be on the divorce paperwork on top. His name has to be defendant. That's how it needs to play out. Then you got to file an immigration report on him on the ICE website or the Homeland Security website. Google Homeland Security immigration fraud report, or report immigration fraud, something like that. File a report against him. You want him not to get his green card, and you want him out of the country. Because all the while he's in the United States, when you sign that Form 864, you are being held responsible for him financially. And he can sue you if you don't provide for him. Okay? So you need to take charge of this like Monday. And if you listen to what I'm telling you and pay attention, I'm going to save you from the biggest headache you could ever imagine. When he goes to his 10-year green card interview by himself, he might hire an immigration attorney. I don't know. He can if he wants. But On the computer at the immigration interview is going to be where you filed a report on him for immigration fraud. Then he's done. He'll go to his interview, and then right after the interview, 2 ICE officers will come out from behind a wall and put him in handcuffs and put him on a plane and send him back home. Okay? And then his 2-year green card will be revoked, and then you're good. You're divorced, and he's no longer in the country, and you are no longer responsible for him financially. So I know it's easy for me to say, but that's what you have to do for your own health, financial health and mental health. And I'm sorry what happened to you. Okay? But you do get 2 chances at a K-1 visa. So if this guy didn't work out, you have a second chance that you can use a second K-1 visa if you decide to go that route and meet somebody overseas again. You still have a second K-1 visa that you can use. Okay? But first you got to get this guy legally unchained from you, financially and every which way but else. Okay? So that's, if you listen to what I say to you, if you pay attention to what I told you and do what I said, you're going to be okay. You'll be just fine. But you need to be in charge of this. Take charge of the process. Okay? Now, what I'm working on is those 75 countries that are still being blocked. Consular processing. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, seems to think it's okay to block people from Colombia from coming to this country who are married to American citizens. I disagree. And that's going to get overturned by a federal judge sooner rather than later. MA77 World. Hey, my wife's K-1 visa petition has been approved. Congratulations. So you got the NOA2 letter. During most of the process, she was living and working in Morocco. Okay. So the case was assigned to the U.S. consulate in Casablanca. Okay. However, her employment in Morocco has ended, and she has now returned permanently to Senegal, where she currently resides. Okay. Now, remember, Marco Rubio and the president have started to dismantle U.S. embassies and consular processing in African countries. Now, I don't know, I can't remember if Senegal is on that list or not. Let's see here. So you want to transfer her case from the U.S. consulate in Casablanca, Morocco, to the U.S. embassy in Dakar, Senegal, for the interview and remaining visa processing. Could you please advise us on the best way to proceed with the transfer request? Thank you. Well, yeah, you can do that. You have to do it through the National Visa Center. When your K-1 visa got approved, okay, you had written down Casablanca, Morocco for the K-1 visa interview, right? That's what you put on the I-129F. When you filled out form I-129F, you put in there Casablanca, Morocco for the K-1 visa interview. Now you want to switch it to Dakar, Senegal. And you do that via the National Visa Center. Because your K-1 visa has been approved, okay, the USCIS Service Center is no longer in charge of your case. Your case is now going to go to the National Visa Center. Those are the folks that will then be able to change the visa interview from Morocco to Senegal. But, so you said Senegal is on the list of what? Embassies that are going to stay open or be closed. If the embassy in Senegal is not going to be closed to K-1 visa processing, then you contact the National Visa Center in an inquiry and ask them to change the location of the K-1 visa interview, because what happens is when your case gets to the National Visa Center in New Hampshire, they look at it to make sure the K-1 visa is okay, no problem. If there's no issues with the K-1 visa, then they're going to forward it to the U.S. Embassy in Morocco, the consulate. But so the National Visa Center will get an inquiry from you saying, hey, My fiance no longer lives in Morocco. She now lives in Senegal. I want to have her K1 visa interview at the U.S. Embassy in Dakar, Senegal. But my question is this: is that country in Senegal, is the U.S. Embassy in Senegal, is that embassy going to be closed to K1 visa processing? I can't remember if it is. I made a video about the 50 countries that are being turned, that are going to be no longer of. Watch the video I made on the African countries that are no longer going to process K1 visas. Okay, and then you can make an informed decision about where you want to transfer your K1 visa interview. If the U.S. Embassy in Senegal is no longer going to process K1 visas, and you don't want to tell the NBC to send your K1 visa to Senegal, right? You're going to want to have it sent somewhere else. But if you watch the video, I can't remember what countries are being affected, but there are 50 countries where the embassy is being closed in Africa. You got to understand, the Trump administration doesn't care too much for Africa, apparently, right? Just from what he's doing. Let's see here. The NVC is where you send an inquiry to the National Visa Center and say, please transfer my case to Dakar, Senegal. If Senegal is not on the list of embassies that's being closed for K1 visa processing, if Senegal is on the list that's going to be closed for K1 visa processing, you need to pick another country in Africa other than Senegal that's close to where she lives. Okay, so Senegal is currently on the list of countries affected by the recent U.S. immigration restrictions announced by Trump. Then you do not want to put Senegal as the place where you want to send your wife for her K1 visa interview. You got to pick a different country in Africa that's close to Senegal. Now, I know for a fact that Cape Town, South Africa is accepting K1 visa applications. Johannesburg, South Africa is accepting K1 visa applications. South Africa. I don't know. I don't have a map of Africa in front of me. But if Senegal is on the list of countries that's going to be closed to K1 visa processing, you do not want, you're going to send an email to the National Visa Center and say, please change my wife's K1 visa interview from Morocco to this country. But make sure it's a country that isn't being blocked by Trump or his administration, the State Department. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm trying to help you. I'm sending you down the right road. I'm going to keep you from losing your K1, but you got to understand what I'm telling you. Hung Kim, my wife also received 48-month extension of her 2-year green card about 10 days after filing the I-751 online. Very good. I don't recommend filing the I-751 online because you cannot submit enough evidence that's sufficient to guarantee an absolute 100% approval. That's why we submitted ours, K1, 10-year green card. Karina submitted her 10-year green card the old-fashioned way with paper, with 15 pounds of evidence of our relationship. MA77 World. For a K1 visa, the situation is a little different. The U.S. Embassy in Dakar is still processing K1 visa cases and scheduling interviews. Well, they are right now, but sometime in this month, they won't be. They are right now. But the letter just came out from the White House, or not from the White House, from the State Department, that they're going to be shutting down embassies for K1 visa processing and consulates in Africa, 50 embassies. And if Senegal is on the list, they just haven't got to that embassy yet. Right now, they're processing K1 visas. So if you want to go, if it's going to take 3 or 4 months to get a K1 visa interview at the embassy in Senegal, by the time you get to that point, the embassy may no longer accept K1 visa applications. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, you can go ahead and put Senegal down if you want. So when but you're going to have to notify the National Visa Center of your intention. Explain what happened. You need to send the National Visa Center an inquiry, identify your current K1 visa application with the receipt number. You got a receipt number, right? You got an NOA2 letter, an I-797. You got a letter from immigration, the NOA2 letter. You got a receipt number. She has an alien number. Look on the NOA2 letter. You should be able to find her alien registration number. So in the subject line of your inquiry to the National Visa Center, you're going to put the receipt number from your NOA2 letter and her alien registration number and her name. And then in the body of the email, you're going to explain what you want to do. You want to change the visa interview from Morocco to Senegal. Hopefully, they're still processing K1 visas in Senegal when you get to that point in the process. But it's going to take about 2 months, okay, 3 months. The USCIS Service Center is going to hold on to your approved K1 visa for about 4 to 12 weeks. And when they get enough in a batch, they're going to send them all out. So if you ask me, how do you change the embassy interview from Casablanca to Dakar, Senegal? You have to notify the National Visa Center of your intention in an inquiry. That's how you do it. And you have to identify in the body of the email your wife's full name, date of birth, passport number, the receipt number from your NOA2 letter, and her alien registration number that's on the NOA2 letter. Then that way they can find your case very quickly in the computer. And then they can reschedule your visa interview for Dakar, Senegal. If the embassy is still processing K1 visas in Dakar, Senegal by the time you get to that point. So what the worst thing that could happen is you change it to Dakar, Senegal, and then the embassy sends you an email saying, we no longer process K1 visas at this consulate. We are going to redirect your K1 visa application to this embassy. The embassy might do it for you automatically. Do you see what I'm saying? Or the best case scenario would be for your fiancée to stay in Morocco and continue the process with her K1 visa interview at the consulate in Casablanca. Just keep everything like it is. MA77 Word, I just wanted to get your thoughts on our case and what you would recommend at this point. What I would recommend you do is don't schedule the K1 visa interview for the consulate in Dakar, Senegal, because the embassy is going to stop processing K1 visas there in June. Right now it's June 6th. They didn't give a specific day in June. They just said in June. It could be June 30th. But by the time your case makes it to the National Visa Center, it could be another 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Can't your fiance, why doesn't she just stay in Morocco? Can you just keep her in Morocco until you get your visa interview out of the way? Instead of her flying back to Senegal, just keep it like it is. Just don't change anything. Let her continue with the process the way it is. You said that her contract was up or something? Her job, her employment in Morocco has ended. Well, can't she find another job in Morocco just to tide her over for the next few months while you go through this K1 visa process? Can't she just find another job temporarily and stay in Morocco? Or does she have to fly back to Senegal? Here's the issues. The K1 visas may not be processed anymore by the end of this month in Senegal. Number two, that means you're going to have to find another embassy in Africa to process the K1 visa. I know for a fact that Cape Town will, Johannesburg will, okay? Number three, can't she just find another job in Morocco and stay there for the remainder of this process while you finish up this K1 visa application? Surely there's something she can do. Or did her visa time out? Did she have did her work visa for Morocco, did it expire and she's no longer permitted to work in Morocco? But if she's got sufficient time on her work visa left to continue working in Morocco, have her find another job for the next few months while you go through this process. So she doesn't have to move and you don't have to contact the National Visa Center. You don't have to do anything. It's going to be a paperwork drill. And it could be a detrimental paperwork drill, especially if the embassy discontinues processing K-1 visas. Right now, they're not. Right now, they're good. But by June, by the end of this month, there's going to be significant changes across Africa for K-1 visa processing. That's why almost 2,000 people watched the video I made on it. We're living in different times, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't know. I'm trying to help you guys. My wife is from Venezuela, but she was living in Colombia. So when I filed for the K-1 visa back many years ago, I put the U.S. Embassy Bogota as the consular processing because Karina was living in Bogota, Colombia, as a legal resident. She was a legal resident of Colombia with a 10-year residency card to live in Colombia. So it was no issue. But what if, the embassy in Colombia decided they're not going to process K-1 visas for Venezuelans anymore? Then they'd be scrambling for another embassy, maybe Peru, or Ecuador, or Chile, or Argentina. I don't know. But if it was in my opinion, what I would do, MA77 World, is I would be contacting your fiance. You should contact your fiance and see if she can stay in Morocco and work something out, working for some other company for a temporary until you get this K-1 visa all wrapped up, and then get her on a plane into the United States. That's my opinion. But right now, you're going to be fighting, number one, trying to change the visa interview from Morocco to Senegal. Number two, hoping the embassy in Senegal doesn't close down visa processing. Do you see what I'm saying? So if it was me, I'd be telling her, if it was my fiance, I'd be saying, hey, can you not just find a job in Morocco and work there for another 4 or 5 months? But then again, that may depend on her work visa and the permission slips that she had to get to work in Morocco from Senegal. I don't even know what those rules are. You're more knowledgeable on that than I am, but I just know how this K-1 visa process works. But in order to switch an embassy interview, you'd have to do it through the National Visa Center. Those are the folks that would do that for you, okay? And you have to give a good explanation as to why. You just can't embassy shop for the quickest embassy that's processing visas either. So you'd have to give a very good explanation as to why you need to switch the embassy interview from Morocco to Senegal. You have to explain it in an email, in an inquiry, and then wait and see what they say. So anyway, Greg Santos, hi Diego, may the Lord bless you and you also. We want all the blessings we can get in these trying times, right? But the good news is Karina got her 10-year extension letter. 10-year. She got a 4-year extension on her 2-year green card. So her 2-year green card is now good through June 2030. And let's pray that we have somebody running this country that's not going to be trying to dismantle legal immigration into our great republic. Immigrants built this country. Immigrants are responsible for the Empire State Building being constructed, for the Verrazano Narrows Bridge being constructed, for the Golden Gate Bridge being constructed. Immigrants built this country. And I have got no idea why anybody would want to stop legal immigration into this country. And I get extremely irritated when I see politicians trying to block family reunification with American citizens. I get very irritated, okay? But we have, federal judges in place right now that are getting just about sick and tired of this administration as we are. Not just, American citizens, but the whole country is pretty much sick and tired of the way things are going. For immigration, anyway. I got no issues with blocking illegal immigration. If you are an illegal immigrant in this country, my recommendation is you go home. But if you've gone through the process correctly, in accordance with the Immigration and Nationality Act and the laws of the Congress, one person in the White House cannot change all that. Let's see here. MA77 World. We originally thought my fiance would be doing her K1 visa interview in Senegal. Okay. During the process, she was temporarily living and working in Morocco. But when her work contract ended, then what? So what? I'm assuming that when you filled out the I-129F, you put down the consular processing to be held in Casablanca, Morocco. Am I correct? That's what you put on the I-129F. Casablanca, Morocco for K1 visa for the consular processing. Which means when your case gets to the National Visa Center in New Hampshire, they are going to contact the consular office, the embassy in Morocco, and that's where they're going to mail your case to. But if you don't want your case to go to consular processing in Casablanca, you're going to have to notify the National Visa Center. Okay? You got time to do this. You can switch it to Dakar, Senegal if you want to. But there's a good chance this month that embassy will be closed to K1 visa processing, making it even harder for you to bring your fiance to the United States. This administration is looking for any way possible to stop people from moving to this country from overseas. When I saw a Venezuelan get detained at a green card interview who was married to a Black Hawk helicopter pilot in the U.S. Army, a man defending our country, I knew that we had big problems with this administration, with immigration, in regards to not just going after illegals, but also trying to deny American citizens, even military veterans, from family reunification. I got a problem with that. And so does most of this country. MA7 World, she returned to Senegal and is now residing there permanently. Okay. We recently received an email indicating the case is assigned to the U.S. Well, the case isn't assigned to the United States because she's living in Senegal and you're processing a K1 visa. A K1 visa is adjudicated at a U.S. embassy overseas, not in the United States. All K1 visas are adjudicated through consular processing in a foreign country. So if you got an email saying the case is assigned to the U.S., then you need to reread that email, because all K1 visas are adjudicated at consulate offices and embassies in foreign countries, not in the United States. Okay, guys, I've been talking for an hour. Okay, I hope I answered a bunch of your questions. I hope I've helped you guys in some way, shape, or form. If you want to join as a member, there's a place you can join down here somewhere. If you want to join the channel as a member, then you can get my phone number. And then if you have my phone number, you can call me, text me, or email me. Okay? But with MA7 World, you're deleting all your messages. No problem. I'll be back. What's today? I don't even know what today is. Saturday, right? I think today's Saturday. I'll be back on Monday, and I'll make some more videos for you guys during the month. But remember, there are 50 embassies and consulates in Africa closing to K1 visa processing this month. But the good news is those 39 countries that were illegally, unlawfully, and unconstitutionally placed on a pause or a block by the Trump administration, a federal judge has overturned that illegal action. And now those countries, those are people that are actually in the United States who filed for 2-year green cards or 10-year green cards, and they were waiting for adjudication. Those green cards will now be adjudicated. They are being told to follow the law. USCIS, that is being told, you will follow the law and do what the Immigration and Nationality Act tells you to do. I'll see you guys on Monday, okay?